GOP primary voters care a lot about immigration and other issues. So I do want to talk to you about some of the policy plans that you've rolled out. You're one of the few candidates that's been very vocal and outspoken and have put out those platforms. So credit to you on that, and we can talk about that. So when it comes to immigration, you went down to the border, you put out a plan to secure the border where you outlined some pretty severe consequences for those who come into our country illegally. You've said that folks can use deadly force, that law enforcement can use deadly force, saying if cartels are trying to run product into this country, they're going to end up stone cold dead. How far might you take that method for preventing illegal crossings in general? Like under a DeSantis administration, would anyone crossing the border illegally potentially face deadly force from law enforcement?
No, it's similar to like if you're in the military. You have rules of engagement. Anyone that's hostile intent or a hostile act, which the cartels are, you would then engage with lethal force. I think these cartels are basically foreign terrorist organizations. They are responsible for killing more Americans on an annual basis than any other group or country throughout the entire world. And yet this is just happening, and it's happening in communities all across the United States. You can find these angel mothers who've lost children to fentanyl overdose in virtually any community in the United States. And it really hit me when I was down in Arizona. Most of the border doesn't have a wall, of course, but there was parts where there was a wall. And these guys are working on the wall. I'm like, what are you doing? They're like, we're repairing the hole. The cartels cut through the steel beams. So if you see that happening and they got the satchel of fentanyl strapped to their back, you use deadly force against them, you lay them out, you will see a change of behavior. You have to take the fight to the cartels. Otherwise, we're going to continue to see Americans dying.
Well, and I spent a lot of time at the border, too, and I'm sure, as you know, it's not a monolith, right? In the Rio Grande Valley, you've got a lot of families with young children crossing, whereas you go somewhere like Arizona, Cochise County, you've got a lot of single men.
But the cartels will use the children and they will use the families to help camouflage the illicit activity.
Right.
And the children... so we actually are doing, we have a statewide grand jury in Florida that's investigating all the illegal migration because we've had it come into Florida. They've actually found instances where a mother will basically rent out children to military-age males because if you come in with a minor, it's better for you to do that than if you come in as a... What kind of a policy is this that is incentivizing that type of behavior? So what we're going to do, we're going to stop it. We're going to put Remain in Mexico back in. We are not going to accept bogus asylum claims. Right now, you come in, you do a bogus asylum claim, they give you a sheet of paper, come back in 3 years for a court date. How is that a disincentive to come illegally? And the thing is yes, there's massive drugs killing people. Sex trafficking, human trafficking, horrible. You do have criminal aliens coming across. But put all of that aside, the sheer number of people, communities are overwhelmed. You can't have, even if it was legal immigration, you can't have that many people pouring into communities. It puts stress on schools, it puts stress on healthcare, criminal justice, the whole 9 yards. So we'll stop it. We will actually build a border wall. I think that we have good experience of getting things done in Florida, so we will do that. But I think being willing to lean in against the cartels is going to be the critical element.
But to that point, you yourself were an advisor to Navy SEALs. You know how hard it is sometimes when it comes to rules of engagement, how to tell good guys from bad guys, especially when folks are crossing the border under cover of night. How do you discern if it's a child, a mother, or
obviously,
a cartel member?
If it's a child, you're not going to do that. But they have...
Right, but a pregnant mom in a baseball cap with a backpack
They have indications. Okay. I think if you have people blowtorching through a border wall, that is not going to be, that's not
But as you mentioned, the wall isn't everywhere. How do you know you're using deadly force against the right people?
It's the same way you would do in any situation. Same way a police officer would know. Same way somebody operating in Iraq would know. These people in Iraq at the time, they all looked the same. You didn't know who had a bomb strapped to them, so those guys have to make judgments. But the fact that we're going to stop the phony asylum claims and stop the invasion, that's going to be half of it. Because here's the thing. If people know that coming illegally is not going to be a benefit, they're not going to make that whole trek knowing that they're not going to be able to get entry. The reason why people keep coming is because they know the United States has a ridiculous policy where they're literally on an app coming illegally and signing up with our own government to get a court date. They get released in the interior of the country, and then they come back what, 2-3 years later, how many of them are actually going to show up for those court dates? So once you say that doesn't work anymore, you will see it decline. The cartels are going to still try to move product in, but that'll make it easier for us to be able to focus on them rather than having hordes of people come.